This month's sponsor is Triple Whale. Supercharge your ad campaigns with their revolutionary analytics platform, because better data means better campaigns. If you're running any type of paid media, then you need to be using Triple Whale. Find out more at trytriplewhale.com. Welcome back to the DTC Deep Dive, your new favourite direct-consumer focused podcast. Today, we are going to be speaking to someone that I am so excited to sit down and have a chat with, Matt from Spacegoods, formerly of companies like Neon Beach. He's had a real history in growing brands and being a young entrepreneur in the e-com space. He has some real value to give. We're going to be focusing on those experiences, what went wrong, what the learnings are from his past massive built, incredibly quick company, Neon Beach, which I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find out information about it. Well, we're going to be talking about that today, but most importantly, we're going to be chatting about his new venture, Spacegoods, what he's doing in the supplement market to switch things up, and his plans after only launching a week ago. Lots of value in this episode, so if you're driving to work, sit back, pay attention to the road, and get excited. If you're sitting down with a cup of coffee, then get ready. It's a long one, but it's thoroughly worth it. Matt, welcome to the DTC Deep Dive. How are you doing? A fellow Brit, finally. We've had all Americans so far.
Yeah, I'm good. I guess this is the start of the first full week back in the trenches since launching my new brand. So yes. I'm back crippled with constant e-com anxiety, which I've missed because I had about 5 years of that constantly. And then ironically, when everything went wrong last year and I didn't have e-com anxiety for a while, it was kind of peaceful. But yeah, I miss being in the game, fucking building something again. So yeah. I'm good. I'm feeling motivated.
Good. I'm glad. Well, nice. Talking about that. So if people don't know who you are, Matt, they have no idea your history in e-com. They have no idea what you're doing now. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself, who you are, what you're up to, what you've done in the past?
Yeah, I guess in a nutshell, been in the e-commerce game about 7 years, I say, full time for pretty much bang on 5 years. Going way back, had a clothing brand when I was 19, didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Then went to uni, didn't want to be there. Discovered Facebook ads in late 2016, so pretty early looking back. Then started a clothing brand with a mate at uni that became pretty serious. We had an office and shit. Mm-hmm. Started to figure out that I could actually make money doing this e-com thing. And then funnily enough, I got into brand building as opposed to drop shipping before I ever did any drop shipping. And then me and my co-founder at the time, Ollie, who actually runs Soar with us agency, we work together now. We fell out and it wasn't the right time to be starting a brand for him. And I went traveling, got back into the drop shipping space, did that for 2 years, just intentionally trying to make as much money as possible when Facebook ads were cheap, doing stuff that was super unfulfilling. Met a load of people, went out of my way to meet people and a network, which is probably one of my greatest assets now, is the people I know in the game. And then about 3 years ago now, started a jewelry brand called Midnight City, scaled that to 7 figures in the first year. Then about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, started a brand called Neon Beach, which became a bit of an infamous horror story, scale and problems, which we can get into. Ran both those brands throughout 2020 and 2021. And then, long story short, Neon Beach became a fucking nightmare. I got bought out by an investor after it went to shit, basically. Learned a lot of lessons. Spent 6 months working with them on both the brands I built. And then decided, well, fuck this. I don't want to be an employee ever, particularly not for my own business, which was the current situation. But it was the best of a shit situation. And I had to be pragmatic about it. And then in the past 6 months, I went back to the drawing board, which is a scary but exciting place to be. And I was like, fuck it. Well, I'm going to build the next brand. And that is now what I've just launched, Spacegoods, which is something it's one of those things where looking back, I feel like everything makes sense looking back, because I was never passionate about jewelry, which is why I started Neon while I was running a decent jewelry business.
Yeah.
I was pretty into Neon, but then looking back, it went wrong, but it's not the best model. And I don't think it had a mission long-term in the same way my new venture does. Mm-hmm. And now, I launched this last week after 5 months of prep building it. But really for the first time ever, I feel like this is a business and a brand and just a venture, broadly speaking, that I could work on until I die, potentially in terms of the vision, because really I'm building a brand for a market that isn't even legal yet. I'm just putting my balls on the line and betting largely on on the legalization of like psychedelics for general therapeutic purposes, wellness purposes. And yeah, I think it's where CBD was and cannabis was about 15 years ago.
Exciting stuff to come. There's that, you know, obviously you have a big history in e-com. Like, let's talk about that a bit, because I think having you on the podcast will be silly not to talk about Neon Beach and the controversy that came with it and everything like that. Like, I've listened to your podcast about it. You did a Twitter thread about it as well. But it came out of nowhere. Like, I was getting delivered those ads. I wanted one of those signs. And I think everyone which saw your ads wanted one. I have friends that were in the issues that happened where they ordered from you. They never got their order. And I remember them tweeting like, oh, Neon Beach is a scam. They're scamming people out. And it was only until I started following you on Twitter and I listened to the podcast that I realized the complete other side of the story. So let's talk a bit about that. Like, what happened? So you came up with the idea, like, was it the start of 2020 to run an e-com business, a Neon business?
Yeah. So, and just to preface what I'm about to say, so like, the reason I put out the first podcast 7 months ago now, explaining that full story after the dust had settled and everything had been solved, was because there was so much bollocks online, which everyone knows now.
Which there still is. There still is, like, all you need to do is Google Neon Beach and your name, and it's still laden with just like people calling you a scammer, people saying the business is a scam, even though it's readily available to actually see what happened.
But yeah, I mean, for a start, anyone that talks shit about anyone online, even if they do think they're a scammer, I think needs to look at themselves in the mirror first, because I would never do that. But what happened, I guess, so yeah, Christ, I feel like we're going to speak about bring up my PTSD from the past year.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
But yeah, I was running a successful jewelry business, 7-figure revenue, 6-figure profit, like run rate. Didn't need to launch Neon, but like I said, I wasn't that interested in jewelry. I'd only been doing it a year, and I actually wanted a neon sign of my jewelry brand logo and an LED neon sign. And I couldn't really find an obvious brand or like provider for it other than like Chinese factories like Alibaba, etc. And I'd always been into like pink lights and that whole aesthetic. And it really started as like, again, like a passion project. Like I didn't need to do it. It wasn't, this is the ultimate irony as well. Like it wasn't even, I didn't even think it could be a business to begin with. I literally came up with the brand, did what I do best, which is just 0 to 1. And within, I think like 3 days had launched the website, completely just from scratch, and started running ads. And basically from day one, it just fucking worked. And I filmed a bunch of ads in my bedroom, which are probably the most viewed ads of anyone's bedroom, probably in the UK all time or something, on Instagram. And yeah, it scaled really quick, basically. I outsourced a massive team in the Philippines of like 40 people at one point, designers, customer service. And this was 2020. So I was already running my other business as well. I mean, long story short, in a nutshell, scaled the shit out of it, got it to like $1 million a month by like month 6. And obviously, like the model by nature is drop shipping. It's branded drop shipping because we're making bespoke signs. Like that's the beauty of the models, that you can make anything. That's why there's such like demand and high AOV, etc. But it's a very complicated model. Like I did so much supply chain work. Like we had like 3 dedicated factories in China, which is what all our competitors were doing, by the way, because you can't stock this. Like it's impossible. You can't stock a bespoke neon sign, and even the stuff that wasn't bespoke. And then, yeah, I guess it grew super, super quick because right product, right time, obviously lockdown. We're spending up to like 15 grand a day on Instagram at like peak.
Oh.
And then I also had Love Island and ITV approached me about doing a collaboration. So we did a collaboration with them, did all the signs for their Vegas villa, which was like Love Island America. I'm not a massive Love Island fan, but I thought obviously it's a massively like on-brand partnership.
Yeah, that must have been massive. That alone,
I even had
must have been
Universal Music. I had a meeting with the CEO of, what's it called? The merchandising arm. I went to their offices in London. Then they wanted to do a 1975 merch thing, which was my favorite band.
Yeah,
that didn't happen because COVID happened. But like there was so much interest in it from like the first month, and I was like, oh fuck, like this could be fucking huge. And at that point, I'd switched off from my really smooth, profitable business, Midnight City, because I was just like all in on this. Yeah, long story short, I brought the production from China to the UK to try and speed up customer service, ironically. So like it wasn't terrible, but like the whole nature of it was it took like 4 to 6 weeks. Like shipping was getting super expensive because of COVID. So massive demand. but shipping was more expensive than the product itself. So I spent ages trying to figure out how we could basically improve the back end, because I knew that the potential was ridiculous. Yeah, but basically invested every penny of profit we made to that point, which was quite a lot because it was super profitable pretty much from month one. Paid this factory up front in the UK, like went to meet them, etc., etc. They're a B2B supplier previously. Long story short, we're doing like well over $1 million a month in like Q4. There's a prime time TV campaign running with Love Island, like a shitload of traffic. We must be doing 2 million website visitors a month at this point. Half a million followers on Instagram, which I've never seen any brand ever grow that quick. And not a single one was fake, by the way, which people have said to me. It was all just from ads. And we spent like, well, millions on ads in the first year. This factory couldn't keep up. They'd bitten off more than they could chew. And then essentially, in layman's terms, about 2 million quid's worth of orders just disappeared in Q4. And I've already paid for them. Customers are then obviously coming for me, not the supplier. You know, they don't see the extent of like, obviously you start getting bad reviews. Trustpilot got fucked. Yeah. Like 5,000 plus 1 stars. Yeah, it became a very difficult horror story very quickly. And then there was kind of 2 parts to why it was so shit. Like the first part was a really good business, which was on track to do like £1 million EBITDA in the first year, by the way, because we did like $500,000 in the first 6 months in like actual management account net profit. And I also had private equity firms like on the phone to me like a few months prior saying like, this is massive. We're interested in doing a deal, blah, blah, blah. How can we scale this to 300 million revenue? And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, this is sick. Like, I'm really interested in it. I'm creatively passionate about the product, all this. I'm thinking like, this could be the next Gymshark, like in terms of brand scale. And I still, by the way, think a brand in that space can be as big as that, but that's another issue. But yeah, where it got really, the worst part, like mentally for me, was I knew the business was in trouble. So as a solo founder, trying to fix that on your own from a fucking spare bedroom is excruciatingly difficult anyway. But it got a lot harder when I started getting like a massive wave of hate online, because like I didn't really put myself out there previously. Like I just had an Instagram account like everyone else. But you know how online sphere works, stuff gets taken out of context. A picture of me with my Ferrari that gets shared into a group. You know, people start saying this guy is on holiday spending up. Like I think there was literally like a forum dedicated to convincing people I'd bought a mansion in the Caribbean or something. Yeah. Because there was a picture of me on holiday from months prior.
Yeah, because they have no idea anything else about you.
I can see why that looks that way. But even then, like I said, I would personally never write a hate comment ever in any capacity online, but that's another issue. And it just got out of hand. So I guess the prime like hellish period was like November 20 to March 21. And yeah, so I was getting like death threats. I had a Daily Mail reporter at my door at 10 p.m. at night saying, we're going to expose you in this shit. And I thought, fucking hell, if that happens, I'm going to top myself. Like I was in a very bad place. Like, but I just kept getting up every day because I thought, well, the only solution here is I came to the conclusion pretty quick. Like I can't solve this myself. We need an investor to come in and basically bail the business out, which is ultimately what happened in March 2021. Yeah, I had there's probably 5 or 6 parties that I ended up speaking with about doing a deal with. And it was always going to be a case of they would buy 80%, 75, 80%, you know, a controlling share of the business and basically sort out all the issues, and we would fix things and keep going. And I would be a minority shareholder just to fix the problems, basically. And ultimately, that's what happened.
I think that if anything, that you chose to go down that route and not be like, all right, I'm off, see you later.
This is the thing, right? People don't actually realize it would have been a lot easier for me at the time. Yeah. At the time, it wouldn't have been easier now, probably a year on, I might be dead, to just shut my laptop and say, fuck this, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I knew that firstly, I wanted to fucking, like, I was solving a problem that I didn't cause ultimately. And yeah, granted, you know, I chose to work with this factory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm ultimately responsible because I'm the founder, director, all this bollocks. But, you know, there's no malicious intent. Like, I got absolutely put through the fucking turbines for 6 months, and to the point where I literally did not want to be on this planet anymore. Like, that's how bad it got. And that's why I think online hate and whatever is dangerous, because it really can push people to the edge. And it very nearly did for me, to be honest. But I just ignored the noise and got a deal done, and everyone got their money back in the end, or got their sign or whatever it was. And that took months in itself, but that was the only way to put things right.
What was it that made you be like, okay, no, I need to actually sort this properly. I need people to get their money back. I need to, instead of just shutting your laptop and just going away, because there are a lot of people who aren't as strong-willed who would have been just like, you know what, like if you're going to be like this to me, then I'm going to be like this with you.
Yeah,
See you
well,
later.
you know, like a thing that annoyed me and still kind of does. I mean, I'm kind of over it now, but to put it simply, like there's a lot of people online in the past and now, and there will be in the future, that are doing genuinely dodgy things, whether that's fucking crypto rugs, you know, gurus that have never made a penny selling courses with fucking fun. And I could name a few of them right now, by the way, that I know for a fact are making no money. That was never me. Like, I can hold my head up high and say I've built legitimate businesses, like prior to Neon Beach as well. Like, Neon Beach is still going, by the way. It is a legitimate business now. It very nearly became, you know, something that never got fixed. But, you know, I've built a clothing brand in the past, a multi-million-pound jewelry business, which I'm proud is still running. Like, I know that I'm a legit operator, and like, I'm not a bullshitter. I'm not a scam artist. So ultimately, it comes down to integrity. I knew that I had, you know, there was no malice in my intent. Ultimately, I got absolutely battered and bruised in this situation, but I have to do the right thing at the end of the day, which was get a deal done. And we got a deal done, and fucking, you know, the price of that was my mental health for about a year and my equity in a potentially very valuable business had it not gone wrong. And ultimately, that's, you know, I paid that price to do right by all customers, which was, of course, the only thing to do. But yeah, it shaped me as a person, I think, ultimately, that experience. And I'm a much better entrepreneur and man for it, I think, without being dramatic. And yeah, I'm still only 26. I'll be doing this shit for the next 60 years. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure I already credit it as a massively valuable learning experience, even just from like literally. So back in January, February, this is probably way too much information, but there's no filter with me. I didn't know like how to even get a deal done. I didn't know the process, because ultimately the business went into administration and it was bought out. And that's the legal process to basically wrap up this sort of thing when there's a load of creditors, et cetera, and all the creditors get paid off. I was literally Googling, what do I do when my business is fucked? Like, it was that simple, because everyone thinks they're a fucking baller and is motivated and, you know, is a hustler when shit's going well. But how much of a hustler are you when everything is stacked against you? Like, everything. I felt like I couldn't get a fucking break. It's probably taken me about a year to like mentally get over it to an extent. But yeah, I mean, it was a long process, but it got fixed, and I'm very glad it did. And that's a very long answer to your question, but that was the only option in my head.
After that experience, you picked yourself back up, and now you're doing something completely different. You're not selling neon signs anymore. Like, what learnings did you get from that as a whole, which you think are going to help you exceed what you did with Neon Beach, with Spacegoods?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one, I mean, maybe get into what I've done with the new brand in a second. The first one is, I don't ever want to have 100% of the responsibility ever again, because I was doing way too much myself. Like, the business was like over both brands. The business did 10 million quid in revenue in 2020, like 9.8 or whatever, like pounds. So like $14 million from a fucking bedroom. And I didn't have a single employee, as in like PAYE, proper employee, blah, blah, blah. Like, obviously agencies, freelancers, shitload of staff over in the Philippines. But yeah, looking back, that's actually pretty fat scale at 24 as well. Don't have a fucking degree, you know, no formal training. So yeah, that's the first thing I think would be to recognize where you need help, and probably should bring in some more experience. But yeah, fuck, I was 24. Like, I didn't know how to hire a COO. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to tell me that? Like, I didn't go to business school. Like, my fucking MBA was 6 years in the trenches and then getting fucked at the end of it, which is probably more valuable than any MBA, by the
100%.
way.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first thing. I mean, there's so many things. I think the next thing would be actually being honest about the numbers, because, and I could really go in on this, but all these people on Twitter, whatever, like particularly like drop shippers, they're not making 100 grand a month. They're probably making 50 if they actually did management accounts, not just like fucking screenshot on Shopify. They're probably not paying tax, by the way, because they're probably not even registered as a business. That's another thing. Naming no names. They're probably not VAT registered when they should be, you know, all this sort of shit. Looking back now, like I had a really expensive accountant. There was no management accounts, like stuff was always delayed. I, you know, probably built up, like anyone with an Amex probably doesn't realize like your balance sheet ain't as healthy as you think. If you actually look at the real numbers, like your bank account isn't your balance sheet. That's another thing I'll say. So yeah, I suppose broadly knowing the actual fucking numbers and having professionals telling you what the numbers are, not just you thinking, oh, I'm making 100 grand a month. Because I swear, if you go on Twitter, everyone's making 100 grand a month profit, right? It just seems to be, that's the number. I mean, we're all making 100 grand a month profit. And
top line revenue
don't work. Yeah, exactly. So that would be the next thing. Like, knowing your numbers, but also on top of knowing your numbers, actually just knowing like your cash position, because you could be making £1 million profit, but if you've got 20% payment reserve, you could be bankrupt next week. So they're probably like the two big ones. I mean, what would be the third one? I think, and I actually think this is fucking invaluable advice, to be fair. I should really charge for this shit. Would be just because you can scale that quick, doesn't mean you should. Yeah. And you probably shouldn't actually. Like looking back, if I'd done 2 million quid in the first year with Neon Beach instead of, I think it did 7, and then jewelry did 2.5, so it's 9.5 total. If I'd done 2 in revenue and just focused on, you know, making nice 20% EBITDA, making sure the supply chain was locked in rather than thinking, because I was just like, fuck, how can we get this to 50 million revenue in year 2? And that wasn't delusion, because I had, you know, investors telling me we can scale this to massive numbers, you know, fucking Universal Music telling me we could do a collab with my favorite artists. Like I just had stars in my eyes at this point. So yeah, I think that is a very, very important point. Just because you can scale, like, you know, you could spend 10 grand a day on Facebook instead of 2, for example, at a profitable CPA or whatever, doesn't mean you should, because scale brings responsibilities and problems, or potential problems. Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about scaling the front end of a business, and that's like the glamorous shit. You know, spend more on ads, do more on revenue. Voila, I'm a baller. No one is talking about scaling a customer service operation. Like, is your trust pilot in line with what you actually think customers think? You know, all this sort of shit. You know, scaling like cash flow models. Like, do you actually have enough cash in the bank to scale that quick? I think you probably need a month's worth of revenue in the bank as a general rule of thumb, broadly speaking, in e-commerce. If you did 100 grand a month, you probably want 100 grand a month. Sorry, 100 grand cash in the bank, liquid, just to facilitate that. Yeah, you could be profitable scaling, thinking everything's going very well, but then actually you've run out of stock, or your supplier's got a bottleneck, and suddenly, you know, you've got loads of customers that, I don't know, have pre-ordered something, et cetera, et cetera. So they're probably the top 3 off the top of my head. There's a billion other little ones and more intricate details, but yeah.
I think the next step is to talk about Spacegoods, which launched as we were recording this last week after months of preparation. And, you know, from last time we spoke, a whole lot of web traffic completely from organic. So it was almost, you know, it was almost brewing to be a success. Where did the idea for Spacegoods come from? What was the triggering factor going from selling jewelry, selling neon signs, to now Spacegoods?
Yeah, so I came back to obviously literally a blank slate. It was, I'm obviously going to build the next fucking business because that's all I've ever known. And I was like, well, okay, great. I've got some money behind me. I have experience, which is most important. And I have a great network who can help me if I need it. So I had kind of everything you need, really. But I needed to figure out what I was going to work on, and I needed to do the work to do it. And I've always spoken about mental health a lot. Like, mental health's probably been the biggest challenge in my life personally, to be honest. Yeah, so like I was thinking, well, I'm going to do the next thing. I definitely want to focus on one thing for a start, because I chopped and changed a lot in the past: clothing brand, jewelry brand, drop shipping, whatever. And I think that's fine, because I'm probably very ADHD, but I needed to go through the motions to figure out where my true passion was, maybe. And it wasn't jewelry, for example. So yeah, I basically thought, firstly, I want to do something that can have a longer term impact, mission, could work on it for, like, you know, an entire career rather than just 2-3 years. But this time I was like, well, I want a great gross margin. I want to do a consumable because I've never done it. And, you know, there's subscription potential, all that sort of shit. And then I was like, well, there's a few things that fit this criteria. And then I thought, well, psychedelics, that market is illegal, but there's clearly so much happening, like research, studies, proof, documentaries on Netflix about like psychedelics being the next major thing in wellness, like microdosing, all that sort of shit. And I'd always been interested in that, dabbled in psychedelics myself a few times, only ever in legal countries, of course. And then I thought, well, we can't sell Class A drugs on the internet yet, or I certainly don't want to do that. But what I do want to do is build a brand ready for a space that is going to be super interesting. But what I can do is build a product to start with, which is a way to intro the brand. It's essentially a nootropic product with loads of mushroom ingredients in, not magic mushrooms, not containing psilocybin or anything, like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, all that good shit. And then I started researching, well, there seems to be like a lot of brands popping up in this space, like mushrooms for general wellness, like cognitive enhancement, mood, well-being, XYZ, basically like adaptogenic, nootropic mushroom shit. But then I thought, well, two things. I firstly can't swallow tablets. It's a really weird childhood trauma. So I was like, I just can't swallow tablets. And all these brands selling like lion's mane, all this shit, they're genuinely all very like capsule tablet focused, like quite medicinal in form, and not too sexy, like very kind of bland. But secondly, all of the brands in the space, even the ones that aren't selling tablets, they're doing like powders, etc., similar to me, they're all very vanilla. They're all very brown, cream, black, gray, white. And maybe that's because nothing else works. But I was like, well, I always build a product for me. And I would class myself as an ambitious, creative person. And I was like, there's a lot of people like me, kind of like new money, so to speak, like, internet people, like agency owners, crypto people, whatever, like this whole new, like the whole next generation of entrepreneurs and creatives. And then I came up with this like slogan, the next generation wellness brand, because I was going to call it a mental wellness brand. But then I thought there's a lot more potential here to go into different categories. And I was like, right, fuck it. Let's go down this mushroom avenue. Let's build a really fucking sick brand that is visually so unique and cool that it has that like sexy element as well, rather than just being a good product. Because like every product on the market has to be good, particularly in supplements, if you're building something from scratch, because it has to go through approval, regulation, all this shit. So every product is good. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to taste like shit, because it's not like you're drop shipping a supplement from China. So yeah, I was like, fuck it, let's do that. But I've never built a consumable. So went down the rabbit hole of how do I make this shit? And I came to the conclusion that firstly, I would keep it simple, one SKU, an all-in-one daily blend. Again, just thinking like, what do I like about other brands out there? Brands that I'd bought from, were currently subscribed to, etc. And I thought, well, I like this, I don't like this. Great product, but shit branding, cool branding, but they only sell tablets, or, all this sort of stuff. I basically just, had all these ideas, and over like a few weeks initially, it was like, fuck it, that's what we'll do first. I think that makes sense in my head. I just have a gut feeling that this is a good place to go into, a good market to delve into. A good first product. I think it makes sense to have one SKU, keep it very simple. Powder is a really versatile product rather than like a gummy or a capsule, all this sort of shit. And then, I basically, through a lot of time and error and a bit of money, like sampling shit, found a good supplier, and it's all made in England, which I think is cool. Like adds to the brand value, I think. And I'm proudly English, not American and shit. So, so spent a few weeks and probably the early few months like figuring out how to make the product, and then the later few months in the process, I suppose, were after I'd like finalized version 1 samples of the product. Obviously that went into production, and then it came down to like very quickly getting all the visual stuff done. I did that like 1980s like video shoot,
super cool,
which is very fucking pointless, by the way. Like that doesn't drive sales at this stage, to be honest, but that's just it was a bit of fun. But also I wanted to put the brand on the map as something that's just like not going to play by the same rules as everyone else. The difference really comes down to brand and marketing, of course. And I guess I took elements of like neon, like it's a very similar pink. I've always fucking loved pink. I think it's very unisex, which actually works really well for the brand as well. My whole vibe, like with the podcast and stuff, has always been kind of synthwave, retro wave. I just like honestly naturally am drawn to that. Like it's not forced at all. Like I just feel most at home playing with that aesthetic. I always have. And it just by default is like very unique, because there's not many brands really doing that. I mean, I'll let you ask another question before I ramble, but that's where we're at now. We just launched it a week ago. It got a really good organic reception, but in my mind, organic doesn't really fucking matter, because I'm not going to scale a £100 million brand organically. So the key things that matter over the next month to me are obviously a lot of testing, creative testing on TikTok, Google, Facebook, but also just, are we profitable on our CAC? I'm not expecting to be profitable on every ad from day one. Like, I'm not a fucking TikTok drop shipper. I'm not killing shit if it's not profitable from day one, because it's a longer term view. This is now what I'm working on. I guess, I've got targets, what I want to do in like the first year. But when you're fucking 5 days in, it's all about just data collection, like what's working. It's definitely like a harder space than I've done in the past, because it's a lot more complicated, but that's what entrepreneurship's all about, right? Just figuring shit out. Like, I knew nothing about supplements in terms of like making them 6 months ago. Now I know quite a lot, and I'm learning more every day. So
yeah, I mean, talking about paid as a supplement brand, it's quite difficult. Paid is quite a difficult space for supplements because there's so many rules and regulations, especially with platforms like TikTok and stuff. What's been your
already seeing that.
Yeah. What is going to be, do you think, your main focus when it comes to paid media? Do you think you're just going to try and figure out ways around TikTok, or?
Yeah, so we've got 3 channels I want to focus on to start with, all of which have been running now for like 4 days. So fuck all, we've not spent that much on it yet. Facebook, Google, TikTok. Google and TikTok got banned on day one because the landing page mentioned psychedelics. So that's already a bit of like a because the whole angle was, this is like a legal alternative to a psychedelic microdose, which I think is a really cool, polarizing, intriguing angle, because it also like fits the whole rhetoric of like, we want to go down that psychedelic route long term. That's our strategy as like a mission driven company. But if I can't fucking say that on the website and run ads and sell my non-psychedelic product to start with, then so now I've taken it off the homepage. It's now just on the mission page, and we seem to have got the ad account sorted. It's not a problem on Facebook yet. But yeah, we've literally only spent like $1,000 on ads. Like, I think people think, like, I think my dad messaged me and said, like, have you done £1 million yet? And I was like, no, it's been 5 days, mate. Like, nothing scales that quick.
Yeah.
And I'm actually like, I intentionally want to scale this a lot slower.
Yeah.
Well, a lot slower than Neon. I still want to do 7 figures in 2022. I'm confident I will. And it's too soon to say, like, categorically I will, but that's the plan. But yeah, TikTok, Google, Facebook paid wise. And then for the first time ever, I've hired someone to run TikTok organic. And I feel like that is the first platform where I am too old to like intuitively get it. Yeah. At 26 years old, it's like, fuck, I need like a 17-year-old doing this shit. So I've actually got a 19-year-old guy from America who's big on Twitter, who's going to be running it from next week. So we'll see how that goes. And then other than that, like, I think podcast sponsorships and stuff like that could be cool. I mean, I'm obviously already sponsoring like my own podcast, and I think that'll compound over time. But again, I'm not counting on like my own personal brand being like a revenue source. I kind of view that as like a little cherry on top. It's just like a nice bonus. But yeah, like early signs are good, to be fair, on paid. We're getting like a 3 ROAS overall already from like attributed pays. Well, not attributed, but like overall ROAS. And that is primarily from ads. And it's 5 days in. So I shouldn't even mention fucking numbers, because I think you need to give it 3 months really to see what is actually what's working. Like we don't have enough creatives for a start. Like all my UGC is like pending. My product literally landed 2 days before I launched the website. I didn't have any products on hand before that. So even when I was doing my own content for the website, like that shoot and stuff, that was just a packaging sample with protein powder inside it that looked the same. It wasn't the actual product, because I'm a big believer in, I'd rather have the product and the brand 80% there and launched, getting actual feedback from customers, rather than iterating it for a year, trying to get it perfect in my eyes and never fucking launching the thing. So yeah, I'm all about customers and revenue ASAP.
What was your reasoning for hiring someone specifically to do TikTok organic? Because like you mentioned before, paid is the most reliable way to scale any kind of product. But then you do see a lot of brands absolutely slamming it on TikTok organic. Like, what was... I understand why you hired a 19-year-old. I mean, like, we do a lot of TikTok stuff, and even I don't understand the platform half the time. Like, I feel too old. I'm 27, and I feel like, a boomer on Facebook. Old. So it's like, what was the reason for specifically hiring someone for organic and not just TikTok as a whole?
Firstly, it was, I was just mainly from the Twitter sphere, to be honest. Like, I've seen brands scaling madly from organic, and I've never seen that on any channel ever. And I think it's not going to last that long. Like with every channel, it feels like early days, like get in while you can, like glory days on Facebook. So I kind of view TikTok organic as like another paid channel, effectively. Granted, we're not paying on the ads, but we're going to have to pay someone to make content, whether that's me, someone else in-house, or outsource it. But then I thought to outsource it fully because, yeah, I don't really get it. I'd rather give someone full ownership of that channel. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I just think it would be criminal not to get on that platform, mainly from what I've seen on Twitter, to be honest. TikTok, Google, Facebook paid. I think that makes sense as like the holy trinity, the holy three to start with. But then yeah, TikTok organic just felt like I couldn't leave that out. I think that has to be smashed from day one. There's just too much going on there right now.
And how was that first week been? You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but you know, has it been how you expected? Has it been better than what you expected? Like, has it like maybe made you change your plans a little bit for how you want to go forward?
Yeah, I think numbers wise, kind of what I expected. Like launching organically, like it's not like I've got it's not like I'm Logan Paul and I'm going to sell £1 million of products in a day. The key thing I was looking at was initial customer feedback, and I've had a lot of that, which has been good. I hope that's not people that watch my podcast just sucking my ass a little bit and saying what I want to hear, because I'd rather people be honest and say if they don't like it, tell me. As I expected, like I didn't expect to do £1 million in the first week, and we haven't done £1 million in the first week. Like my goal initially, before I launched it, was let's try and do like 20 to 30K in the first 2 weeks. And we're definitely going to do that and probably beyond. So yeah, it's been interesting. We've already made quite a few changes though. For example, like I had Hotjar on the site, like tracking certain things. I've already changed how I'm describing the product because of the psychedelic wording issue with like TikTok and Google. That's one thing. I've already also changed shipping. I've now just made it free across the board. Like worldwide, because I noticed that a massive competitor called Mudwater in America, which is again, it's a very similar product, but different aesthetic, but they have free shipping. So I was like, fuck, okay, maybe charging people for shipping or something that costs actually fuck all to ship is a bit cheeky, particularly at this stage when you're trying to win like, you know, customers' trust in the early stages. So change that to free shipping across the board, which definitely like overnight boosted the conversion rate. And also on the subscription, because I was offering a single month of £49 and then a 3 month and a 6 month paid up front as a subscription option. A few people did buy that, but they were just people I knew, so it didn't really count. But then I got a lot of messages from the ads, literally in the first few days saying, oh, like, you know, I want to subscribe, but I don't want to pay up front. Can you just do it monthly? And I thought, well, yeah, actually, wait a minute. Why would people pay up? It's better for me if they pay up front, but it's not better for them. Yeah. And ultimately, to be scalable, it has to be better for the customer. So I've already changed that to just a monthly payment. And then a lot of people have messaged saying, do you do sample packs and shit? And that's not even something I thought about, because there's a lot, like I've literally had probably 10 DMs just off ads in the first few days saying, I'm really interested. I would buy it if you did like a trial pack, like a smaller trial pack. So that might be something to look at. So yeah, you get a lot of feedback and data very quickly, obviously, by putting a product out there, because the market will tell you what it wants.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see where you've been and where you're heading towards now. And I think to finish off, we ask all of our guests the same question: if you could only use one advertising platform for the next 5 years, what would it be and why? A lot of people have already given us TikTok, and I expect that to be a platform that keeps on coming up. But what is going to be that platform for you? What has given you the most success in the past? What do you think will carry on giving you the best success?
In the past, it was definitely Facebook and Google, like spent way, way more than anything else on those channels. But if I had to put my eggs in one basket now, I think it probably would be TikTok, to be honest, given like the ad platform potential, and it's still in its early days, as well as the organic side. I just think if I had to choose like Instagram or TikTok, it'd be TikTok ultimately. So yeah, I mean, it's probably a cliche answer at this point, but I think it's a cliche answer because it's true and is where things are going. But obviously we don't have to choose one. I think channels always work better when there's multiple channels going on, and they tend to help each other. So,
okay, thanks, Matt. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you, hearing everything about Spacegoods. I'm really excited to get my hands on Spacegoods. I'm going to go away and order some now and try some.
I'll be checking.
Yeah, you should be. Really, really excited for everything you're doing. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed following you on Twitter and seeing you build Spacegoods, and it's been really exciting listening to your podcast and, you know, hearing the insight you have to give to others. So thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on social?
Yeah, where can they find me? I guess on Twitter and Instagram at MATTHUCIS, at Mathusius, which is a play on Confucius, by the way. It's not my second name. That's my username on there. and then Midnight Podcasts and Spacegoods.com. I guess they're kind of all wrapped into one at this point, so should be pretty findable.
Brilliant. Thanks, mate. Thanks so much for your time. And that's it for this week's edition of the D2C Deep Dive. Thank you so much for listening. It's been great having you. If you haven't already, then make sure you subscribe on any podcast channel which you listen to us on so that you can get the newest episodes straight away. Give us a rating out of 5 stars as well. That's always appreciated. And if you want to put some faces to the voices, then you can listen to the full podcast as well as clips over on our YouTube channel. But until next time, enjoy your week, and I'll see you soon.